Okay, the last topic at this point deals with physical and chemical changes. Now, physical and chemical changes are changes that occur that you would notice if it's a physical property or chemical property involved. In the case of a chemical process or physical process, we have to look at what's going on with the molecules. Obviously we can't see the molecules, but we can get a pretty good idea based on the fact that you have some kind of chemical reaction taking place by a change in temperature or a change in color. So, what is the difference between those two processes? All right? Now, we're not going to get into what happens with the atoms and molecules because we're not at that stage yet, but what we can do is observe what happens and see if that tells you what likely is going to happen. So let's talk about water being turned into ice cubes. We're going to take some water and we're going to put it in the freezer and we're going to make ice cubes. So the question is, does the water cause a heat change when it freezes? The answer is no. It is freezing because of the temperature change. It doesn't create a temperature change. The temperature change creates the new substance. Water has changed phases from liquid to solid, but it's still H2O. Okay? So, if we were to put the water into an ice tray and watch to see what happens, nothing will happen. Why? The temperature must change. So what to have ice. In other words, if we think that the temperature changes because of the fact that water turns to ice, you just put the tray of water down and see if it changes the ice. Just go ahead, change, come on, change. It's not going to do it because an external force has to cause the temperature to drop, not the fact that water is sitting in an ice tray and magically becomes ice. Okay? So it's not causing the temperature change, therefore that is not a chemical change, that is a physical change. Okay? So we look at the fact that the temperature does not change by itself, and the fact that the makeup is still H2O. It just takes a different form. Okay? Another scenario is the dissolving of potassium nitrate in water. Now, for those of you who are athletes, you might be a little familiar with this reaction because if you ever twist your ankle or a knee or a shoulder or an elbow, sometimes the coach will have these white bags, punch it, and then you hear it shake. There's crystals inside of it. They punch it because there's a little sack of water in there. The water then escapes and dissolves the potassium nitrate, and it gets really cold. That's called an ice pack or a cold pack. That is a chemical reaction. Why? It's not because we try to freeze the water inside it. It's the reaction that caused the water to get really cold. That is exactly the opposite of freezing water in a freezer. This is the reaction causing the temperature to decrease. So, because the reaction caused the temperature to go down, this is considered a chemical change. All right? Because the crystals disappeared, then there is technically a color change. So, but you know, if you have an ice pack, you can't really see that. But if you're able to like cut it open and pour it into a beaker or a glass or something and swirl it around, then feel the beaker or the glass or whatever, you would actually feel it get cold, and you can see the crystals disappear. They're being dissolved. That is a chemical change. Bottom line. If a substance remains the same, even when subjected to temperature changes, while it may change its appearance in terms of phase, solid, liquid, or gas, this is a physical change. If a substance changes into another substance, changes temperature, or changes color, this is a chemical change. Now, the changing to another substance is a bit difficult to figure out since we don't know chemistry very well at this point, but the other two will help you out. And you probably will then figure out that there is some kind of change in the substance that's become something else. All right? So, practice problems. I have here 4 situations. Tell me if what is happening to the paper, the water, or the metal is a chemical change or a physical change for those four. Okay, based upon what we just talked about here. Have fun.